Kia ora, hello, I'm Philip Duncan. Thank you for joining us for our 7-day rain watch update, the outlook for the long weekend, and it's recorded on Friday, the 30th of May. Well, let's kick off with the satellite imagery with also the past 6 hours of lightning, and you can see this colder change coming in to the southern part of New Zealand, while the main low is now actually moving well east of the country. So it is moving away from us, but now we've got this colder, windier, showery southwesterly or westerly flow that's about to move on through. So you can see that colder airflow arriving here with the speckled cloud to the south, and that windy weather is going to slide up the western side of New Zealand for the next few days ahead. Let's try and make sense of it. So here we are on the situation map. You can see high pressure moving into the southeast of Australia, but look at this enormous area of low pressure ballooning all the way up to close to the tropics. High pressure is keeping a bit of a lid on it so it doesn't go much further, but that's why we've got this windier southwest to westerly flow around the country as we go into today and tonight, particularly windy in areas like the Auckland zone and just the usual sort of exposed places, but also down around southern parts of the country as a result of the stormy weather just nearby. It will be windy in coastal areas. Here's the rainfall brought to you by resupply.co.nz. Perfect time of the year for Cropmaster DAP. Also, we're having this rain around. We'll show you in our climate watch update today, but soil moisture levels around the country are pretty good at the moment for the most part. Here is the rainfall through till King's Birthday Monday. So the areas where you see the pink, Nelson, Marlborough, parts of Canterbury, Waited Upper, Hawke's Bay, those are at the very bottom of the scale, the driest parts of the country. Could still be a couple of heavy showers around Canterbury as that southerly comes through today. But apart from that, we're not seeing much wet weather. Still seeing some heavy showers on the western side of the North Island, around Bay of Plenty as well, Eastern Bay of Plenty, where there were some very big thunderstorms last night, just east of Whakatane. And then we've got rain coming into Fiordland, and of course, with all that southerly weather, Southland and Otago getting up to maybe 40 millimetres or more over the next few days. That's just till King's Birthday Monday. Let's go right out for a week, and you know, the same dry areas are still the driest areas. And the same wet areas are the ones that get even wetter. And that's because next week there is another low, we think, coming in around Wednesday to Friday with more rain and another southerly. So let's talk about that. Let's kick off with the forecast now. Here we are at lunchtime Saturday. Looks very similar to lunchtime today, Friday. Low pressure, a huge area of low pressure out to the southeast of the country, ballooning all the way up into the New Zealand area. By lunchtime Saturday, we're pretty much halfway between low pressure and high pressure. That's why we're in that squash zone. So windy, straight line winds. You can see the big sou'wester usually curves around as a nor'wester around Wellington and some other areas through the mountains, varying wind degrees, but the sou'west flow is the main one. And like I say, that's usually windy around Auckland, can be windy through Cook Strait, through the Southern Alps and at the very bottom of the country. Still wintry kind of weather on Saturday in Southland and parts of Otago, but the further north you go, the milder it is. It is still going to be a little cooler at the top of New Zealand, but just, compared to what we can get at this time of the year, it's not going to be that bad. By Sunday, the high over Australia moves further in to the north of New Zealand. So we've still got the sou'west flow, but it's not as windy. The isobars are fanning out a little bit more. Most of the stormy stuff is now around the Chatham Islands and south and southeast of that area. Westerly winds returning now to Southland, and they are coming out of Australia. So your temperatures lift up as we go into Sunday. Not a huge amount, still a bit cold here on the southeast. Mind you, the Catlins wouldn't be the Catlins without that kind of weather. Let's go through to King's Birthday Monday. So the westerly flow out of Australia coming from Tassie and from inland Australia will start to lift up temperatures. The blue line that measures the cold stuff, that has been pushed southwards because the high is coming in and expanding out. So we've still, remember it started yesterday, and now it's here on King's Birthday Monday, the windy westerlies. Now look, when I say windy westerlies, exposed areas, the usual sort of wind tunnels. For most places, it shouldn't be problematic, probably not into the severe weather warning category based on that map. But what you do notice over the whole weekend, showers all along the western coastline being fed by that west to southwest flow, whereas eastern areas and the very top of the country look to be the driest. Tuesday next week, the high tracking north of New Zealand. That's a bit of a sign in our climate watch update today. You're going to notice that. More high pressure to the north of New Zealand, and that means we get more westerly winds coming in around the country. But look what happens here on Tuesday. New low deepens in the Tasman Sea. The next high is south of Western Australia, so a long way out and that means that the low's got a bit of room to grow and move. At the same time, as the high here moves northeast of the country, subtropical winds are now coming down. So warmer west to northwest winds. So cooler weekend, warms up next week when you go back to work, pretty normal. And as we go through next week, the low deepens in the Tasman. Out over Tasmania and Australia, cold southerly comes in, might be a bit of snow on the Australian Alps. On the New Zealand side, very different story. We've got subtropical winds from near Fiji and Tonga coming down and over the North Island. And yes, that big line of heavy rain around Northland looks remarkably similar to what we've just had. Probably some thunderstorms in there as well, and some bursts of heavy rain, northwest winds picking up, another mild day on Wednesday next week. Thursday still mild. Now this could change, it's basically a week away. The shape of the low, highly likely to still change in the days ahead. Still expecting low pressure in here, but the exact shape and formation of it, probably won't know that till the start of next week. You can see a couple of centres, one southeast of or east of Dunedin, the other one west of Auckland. So that those could still merge together or form a new shape. But you basically got a gap between the high coming in to Victoria and the high out here over the Cook Islands or south of the Cook Islands. This is quite a large vulnerable area, the Tasman Sea, the New Zealand area out to the Chathams. That's all pretty much a low pressure zone. And yes, southerly coming into the Tasman. So 1 week from now, low pressure over the top of the North Island. Now, if this comes true, that's a lot of instability. Downpours, hit and miss, chance of a thunderstorm, basically a repeat of what we just had over the last day or so, which means you can get hail and an isolated tornado. Can't really lock that in a week out, but if that map is exactly what happens next week, then that's what we'd be expecting. At the same time, the South Island in a different set of weather because of the colder airflow coming around this big high over around New South Wales and the ACT. So there's colder air coming into the South Island, merging with rain in the north. That can produce some heavy snow in the mountains. We'll be keeping an eye on that over the next week. Lots to talk about as we go into winter, which kicks off this weekend on the meteorological calendar. That is all from me for this week. I will see you again next week, of course, on Tuesday. Have yourselves a great long weekend, and don't forget our Climate Watch update, taking a look at how June is shaping up. That is also out today. Have a great long weekend.